Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Late Night Leo's 6th anniversary plus an eye pigment breakdown. I am your host, Morgan, and my co-host,
Brad from SC Geckos.
We'll get it down one day.
Yay.
Tonight's episode is brought to us by our generous sponsors, Luxurious Leopards, Holly Sunbird Reptiles, Top Notch Leopard Geckos, Designer Geckos, and SD Geckos. And don't forget to check out the new cutting-edge Leopard Gecko book by Ray Roner of Designer Geckos called The Leopard Gecko Advisor, available now on Amazon, or for a signed copy, go to their website at designergeckos.com, or you can comment on our post in the Gecko blog, and we will send you a free signed copy at some point. Brad, did you get your copy yet?
No, I haven't. Well, with the holidays and everything, stuff's probably delayed.
Yeah.
So.
I think I kind of have to tell Ray that you won so that you get it.
Details.
It helps sometimes.
Yeah. Plus, he's going to sign it, right?
Yeah, he'll sign it. 6th anniversary, Late Night Leo's 6 years. I don't know what else to say about that, but hopefully we have 6 more years. And
had some good people on the show over the years.
Yeah. Paul Allen, Eric Bristow, Ron Tremper, Wally Kern,
Marsha, Dennis, Magical Geckos. Had all kinds of people. Travis, Jamie Carnes.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. There's been like 46 episodes this year, so.
Hey, when I'm cleaning tubs and cages and stuff like that, I still listen to the episodes, new and old episodes.
Yeah. Here we go. Pat Klein, Enigmatic Reptiles, Micro Geckos with Wally Kern, Michelle Gianvecchio, Landon Smith, Ray Roner, Ashley Cantwell, Ben from Our Geckos, and a lot of other people.
Yeah, there's a lot of shows, man.
There's 48 shows in just while I've had the show. So.
And how long have you had the show now?
1 year exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What was your favorite show from the past episodes?
Past episodes would probably have to be either Paul Allen or Retribution Reptiles.
Yeah.
I remember when Ryan was talking about it was either Ryan or it was Eric from Oregon Gecko was talking about the other one had invented something called the paper towel trick or
yeah, it was Eric, the paper towel technique.
Yeah. That was like a groundbreaking episode because it was all over Gecko forums and oh my God, did you guys hear about the paper towel trick? And it's like 35 years into breeding geckos, the paper towel trick is invented.
Yeah, a piece of paper towel. But I mean, I've tried it. As far as trying to get females to ovulate and stuff like that, it seemed to work.
Yeah. You know, I use what I have a tub. So when I clean geckos, I put all the males in this one tub. So that way, when it's breeding time, all of their scents are in there. So they're like ready to go because they smell other males. So they want to be like the prime male. And that works pretty good for me.
Yeah, and then you can just set a female in there for a little while and let her.
Yeah.
I was taking a couple pictures today, and I had my male Boreas, the reduced pattern Max Snow, and I only had him in my hand for, I don't know, as long as it takes me to go from his enclosure to the light box. And when I picked up the next female, she basically had her face buried in my hand. smelling my hand and licking and stuff. So she may be interested in ovulating here soon. But she seemed really interested in it. Normally she's a bit squirmy and stuff like that, but she was more interested in him, I think.
Yeah, and the paper towel trick, we didn't say what it was. We just mentioned it. So.
Well, you got to listen to the show.
Yeah. Go back and listen to the show. No, well, what you do is you just take a little bit of the paper towel from. It's from. If you're
using a natural setup like paper towels, and like what you would see in the wild if you're using paper towels, then no, I'm just kidding. But if you're using paper towels in the humid hide or anything like that with your breeders, if you need a female to start ovulating or you want to help her along, you can basically take the male's paper towel and put it into the female's enclosure. So she'll come out, she'll investigate it, she'll smell it, things like that. And sometimes, if she's close to ovulating, it may speed the process up a little bit. But basically how it works, if you use cocoa fiber or anything like that, you can just take some of the cocoa fiber out of the males and put that into the females. And you can do the opposite, just so the male gets familiar with the female scent. So when they first interact in a tub, it's almost like they've met before, sort of thing.
Yeah,
it's not unusual smells, so it seems to work. I mean, they seem a lot more jumpy when they haven't encountered each other before than when they're already familiar with their scent, so it's something to try.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it works. It's patented and all that.
Yeah.
I mean, it worked well enough for
like
big breeders to do it.
Oh, yeah, and that was in, 2009, I think, something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
But yeah, Eric's show was one of my favorites from Oregon Gecko.
Yeah, it's too bad that they went off the air. But if anybody wants to call in and ask a question, the number is 1-646-716-5403, and we'll be taking callers tonight. So call in with your questions, and we will give something away, too. There's going to be Ray is going to be giving away a book again tonight. So if you go to the Gecko blog page, you can find the post to comment on once I put it up there. But, yeah. So eye pigment breakdown. I guess we should just get into that because, I mean, even after all this time, there's still, I hate to say the wiki, but the wiki is, I think it's been overrun because I know originally you could make an account and just change whatever you wanted.
That's what I was going to ask you, if you can still do that.
No, I actually talked to Thad when somebody changed Black Knight and turned it into being one of the biggest scams in history, and it just said all this stuff. Horrible thing.
Really?
And, yeah, it was, like, it still says some stuff. I'll find it here. But
today was the first day that I've been on there in a long time, and I was just looking at it because of tonight's show, basically like just reading over that, and I also was looking at some of the other, leopard gecko, the calculator, where that's got a section for morphs where you can click through the morphs, and just seeing what the other, and what's the other big one, VMS herps, is that what it is? VMS herp, I believe that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's got like a learning center. Yeah.
Yeah. It still says it was a European breeder, Living Art Geckos. They got geckos from the wild, and in 2006 they received black pearls, and which is completely different than. Do you remember who the opera singer was that actually got the wild caught pair?
I can't remember the name, but they moved to like was it Australia or Austria or
Australia.
somewhere? Yeah, and they couldn't take their collection. That's why it was Australia because they couldn't take their collection.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name though.
No,
but again, it's on one of the late night Leo shows. It goes over that whole history of it.
It's one of my favorite shows. I think Craig says that he spent like the amount that like a house to get the whole collection.
Yeah.
So but anyway, that's the whole point of doing the eye pigment breakdown, because there's so much crazy talk out there on the Facebook and the forums. I don't know. Do they even talk about stuff on the forums? I haven't been on that in forever.
Yeah, there was a couple months back where Christy from Ghoulish Geckos, it was in one of the groups that we were having a discussion on Facebook, and she, since she's a moderator on Gecko Forum, she started a thread on there about it was when we were talking about the eclipse in Abyssinia.
Yeah.
We had that big discussion about that. She put a thread on there about that. So, but I mean, if you just go on there and type in eclipse gene, there's all kinds of stuff, from people just asking if they have an eclipse or how can they tell, and different stuff like that. There's some good information, but then there's other people that just don't know any better, new in the hobby, things like that we're just either don't know or we're just misinformed by reading stuff like the wiki, and I mean, none of them really have the accurate information on there.
No, and I'm
you've read them all.
Yeah, it's, you really got to read all of them. Don't just read one.
Yeah. Just don't take one person's word for it.
Yeah, exactly.
That goes with anything. I mean, I'm far from an expert. I work with Eclipse a lot. As if anybody's seen my page, they probably know, but I'm by no means an expert on the eclipse.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be good once Gary gets Faunavault up and running, so we can have a real educated place to go look for information. But
that in a community where it's not, because sometimes when you have a horse in the race type thing, the information can be skewed a little bit, even if it's unintentional. I mean, it may not be as accurate as it could be if you have a collective group that's putting all their information into one pot. You normally get better outcomes, better results.
Yeah, there's a lot of it gets crazy. But I guess we should get into talking about eclipse first, since that's like the major eye pigment trait. So would we even put Abyssinian in eclipse anymore as part of the gene? Because I know that, I think I know what thread you're talking about that Christy was in. I think I was in that thread too, and I started calling all of my Abyssinian just clear-eyed eclipse, because Abyssinian was supposed to be all shades of everything except for black, because it's supposed to be an albino animal with albino eyes and black pupils. Like, that was the only black part of the animal.
Yeah, in addition to that, it was supposed to be a new, quote-unquote, a new morph. And what we were calling the Abyssinian isn't a new morph. It's still part of the eclipse complex trait, gene, whatever you want to call it, because there's lots of discussion about that as well, because there's so many sort of like different traits, I guess, that come into play, whether it's the white feet or the speckling on the tail and patternless stripe and blue spot or star and white nose, that kind of stuff. If it all is inclusive in the eclipse, or if it's just certain traits like you're playing around with and doing some projects with trying to pull different things out. Yeah. So that'll be interesting to see. But I mean, as far as eclipse goes, if you go to the wiki page, if anybody goes to the wiki page and reads it, what it's talking about on there is the actual term eclipse versus the actual gene or the actual morph eclipse.
Yeah, it's talking about black pigment.
Yeah, it's not actually talking about the eclipse gene, which is confusing because you're on there and you're clicking that link to find out about the actual eclipse trait or gene, but it
exactly.
What does it have on there? It has it doesn't even have eclipse by itself. It has, after it describes it, it has like, I think, Mac eclipse. I'm not in front of the computer right now, but it has what? Mac eclipse, super snow, and it has something else on there, but I
Blizzard.
can't recall. It's three. Yeah, Blizzard. Okay. Yeah, three different ones, and it's basically calling them all eclipse because they have eclipsed eyes, not the actual eclipse gene.
Yeah, here it is. The word eclipse refers to an eye trait where the eye is completely covered. There are three different forms in which the eclipse trait appears. The forms are, it says the forms are also unrelated. They are max super snows, Tremper eclipse, and blizzards, which is completely wrong because, I mean, Tremper eclipse would be raptor, and eclipse as its own would be eclipse.
Yeah.
So just the first two sentences about the eclipse refers to an eye trait where the eye is completely covered. That's not at all what eclipse refers to. Eclipse refers to that specific gene where it has black eyes. Which, that's where
you get lots of confusion because I get people that see super snows on my page or just a super snow in general, and they're like, is this an eclipse because it has all black eyes? Like, it's just a super snow. And then it gets confusing for people that aren't familiar with leopard gecko genetics.
Yeah.
Because there's other things, like if you just take a random super snow and compare it to a super snow eclipse, there are 99% of the time there are very distinct differences between the two animals.
Yeah.
Of course, you're going to have one random animal that may. There's always exceptions because it's not an exact science, but they're few and far between.
Yeah, it's really bad. I mean, just saying that super snows have eclipsed eyes, then you go to the morph calculator with super snow and eclipse, and then you've got everybody labeling their super snows as total eclipses and
and upping the prices, and then people are saying, well, there's a super snow eclipse that this guy's selling for $75. Like, that's a great deal. It absolutely is a great deal if it's a super snow eclipse.
Yeah.
If not, you're gonna be disappointed or misled. But like I said, it's just a lot of not knowing exactly what you're probably what you're working with genetically. And then number two, how different markers and different things when you see it, like everybody talks about, like if you think of a stereotypical eclipse, you have either black eyes or snake eyes, and snake eyes can be anything from 50-50 eyes where half is a normal eye and the other half is completely black. It can go all the way down to just a small sliver, like 10%. Like sometimes you'll see, or you used to see people labeling them like their eyes like 20/80 or 70/30, things like that, where they're telling you the amount of pigment in them. The other things you see with them are pied legs. Typically, a lot of times the elbows will be white and the white feet. Now that can vary just like anything. It might have color and pattern on the legs and just white feet. It could have solid white legs. It's they're variables. They're not like, that's like every tremper isn't going to be the exact same color. You're going to have different colored trempers and things like that. But you're also going to have the black speckling in the tail, the tiny, tiny little spots all over the tail. Now they don't show up as babies, but as they get older, they start to develop. What else? White nose.
White
and
face.
again, that can vary drastically. I mean, there's a lot of variables. It's sort of like one single I don't want to say that, one single visual key or visual marker. Like if you have a gecko that basically looks completely normal but has some speckles on the tail,
yeah,
I probably wouldn't go telling somebody it's an eclipse. There's a little bit more to it, or if it's got white feet or something like that. Because, like I said, you see, it's sort of all inclusive for the most part, but there's different degrees of it, basically. Like you said, with the white feet.
Yeah, and it's hard to, once somebody gets one of those traits and they roll with it and it's got white feet, it's eclipse.
Yeah, and then it's a snowball effect from there. But
yeah,
they're easier, in my opinion. Well, I mean, if I see an animal, 95% of the time, if it's an eclipse, I'm going to be able to tell, just because I've seen a lot of them, just like you and a lot of other people can. But as babies, to me, it's a lot easier to tell.
Yeah.
But like I said, the eye pigment can go away as adults. It can fade. But there was also, they used to say that if an eclipse had solid black eyes, it was a more quality eclipse.
Yeah, I don't think so anymore.
Yeah, that's not the case. Have you found yet whether or have you been able to find whether if you breed solid eyes to solid eyes, do you get solid eyes all the time? I don't.
I think it really varies depending on what bloodline you get them from, because I have, Michelle from Rampant Reptiles, a lot of her stuff, if you breed solid to solid, like, you get 99% solid. And it works like with the clear eye stuff. I mean, I get barely any pigment in most of those, and the pigment's just gone by the time they're adults. So then I've got, all these eclipses with the milky colored eyes, and they're not albino.
Yeah.
So I think that people need to line breed, because, they would always say solid to solid, I got some snake eyes, but, do it for 5 years,
Right. Because I have a female that I won't say all of her babies, but a majority of her babies have the one, as we're calling it now, one clear eye and then one snake eye.
Yeah.
Almost like, I'd probably say like 70, maybe 75% of her offspring are like that. But it's not, like I said, it's not 100% consistent. There's still quite a few that pop out that have 50-50 eyes on both eyes, or one solid, one snake eye, stuff like that. So at this point, it's not something that's set in stone. The eye pigment's going to vary regardless.
Yeah.
So
I think there's always.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm only like 3 years into the whole clear-eyed thing, but I don't know. I get like 99% clear eyes, and there's always that one that's got like a half snake eye.
Right. And I mean, the whole hobby, regardless of what animals you work with, is all evolving every year. I mean, so new things can happen. You can find new things. We might be talking about eclipse 5 years, 10 years from now. Listen to the show and like, listen, they don't think this or they don't think that. I mean, it's all a learning experience, and I mean, it's been out for a long time, so most things with them have been ironed out. But there's a lot of things in leopard geckos in general that people mistakenly overlook, as far as different things that they can work on, different traits that kind of slide under the radar, aren't noticed, subtle things. So, could we be talking about 5 years from now that you can have geckos with all white legs, or like the pieds or stuff like that? Who knows?
Yeah.
But right now, as it stands, the eclipses, the eye pigment can completely vary. The super snow is not related to it. You want to talk about the blizzards?
Yeah. what the wiki, I guess we should go back to that. I hope that I don't get an email from Tad tomorrow.
It's not really on him. It's just more of it's not
on him.
Trying to explain what people are seeing, what people are reading, and then what is more accurate.
Yeah, and I've emailed him about the eclipse page that what we're making this whole episode about, because I get these, I've got a blizzard eclipse, I need an eclipse to breed it to, and like the wiki says, the blizzard eclipse trait also randomly popped up in blizzard groups. As of right now, there seems to be nothing genetically behind the blizzard eclipse. When breeding two blizzard eclipses, non-eclipse blizzards can be produced, as well as snake-eyed blizzards and blizzard eclipses. Which, of course, if I go to a website and I buy a blizzard eclipse, I'm expecting to get blizzard and eclipse.
Right.
So that's completely confusing.
And when you're dealing with, plus when you're dealing with an animal like a blizzard and you're adding eclipse to it, there's not a whole lot to visually see in the animal that's going to tell you cut and dry one way or another. If you have a lot of experience working with them, you might be able to pick up some things, but for the most part, you're going to have somewhere between a grayish and a pinkish gecko that's going to have varying degrees of pigment, black pigment in its eyes. It's going to be difficult to tell. That's why the genetics are key. That's why it was always don't mix the albino strains, and lots of times years ago they said don't mix eye traits. Yeah, I've talked to bigger breeders, and their reply to how do you tell if it's a real, like a Diablo Blanco. Right. They always say breed two raptors blizzard together to know that it's going to be for sure, blizzard, eclipse, and tremper, because that's really the only way. Yeah. So, I would hate to be selling Diablo Blancos and then some poor person breeds them together and they get non-eclipse eyes. And then they go to the wiki and it says that's okay. And so they keep selling those non-eclipse eyed Diablo Blancos, and then, I just see it being a big snowball effect. And the wiki is contributing to mislabeled genetics. Yeah, but it could be in a way, but other things, it's just people. Sometimes it seems like people just label it what they want to label it, or they'll see on somebody's site, what I did a long time ago when I first bought my first pet store gecko, is you go on Google and you're type in super hypo tangerine, or you type in blood hypo or something like that. If you look hard enough, you're going to find your pet store gecko in a Google picture that's going to tell you it's a $600 Maui Wowie whatever, and you're going to think that that's the gecko you have if you search, because everybody wants to have you're partial to your animals. Yeah, so exactly. That's how it kind of gets messed up, because you see lots of people on the forums and new people, and they say, well, what morph do I have? And then somebody experienced will come out and tell them, well, it looks like this, but without knowing the genetic lineage, it's just a guess. It's not accurate. And then they'll say, well, I saw a picture of this. It's a super snow eclipse, and can I sell it for this? And it seems to all revolve around money when you're dealing with what your animal is, in that sense. Yeah. But know what you're getting. If you're getting a pet store gecko, then guess what? You have a cool looking pet store gecko. Don't be focused on, which is fine. Just you don't have to be focused, and everybody wants to know what they have, but don't focus on it so much as you have to know what it is, and it's just a cool looking pet. Yeah, and there's not a whole lot of reason to test breed a pet store gecko either. Yeah, there's people unless that it's consider it solid black or it's tied or something. Yeah, or it's that what is it, inverse or something like that.
Yeah.
Send it, I'll be happy to try to test it. But
yeah.
But I mean, if you just have something that looks cool, some sort of tangerine or something like that, I mean, it's awesome. It's a cool animal. It can be healthy and great and everything, but just leave it at that. If you're interested in breeding, then contact one of the hundreds of thousands of breeders and talk to them and figure something out. But if it's a pet store animal, that's the whole emphasis on the name of the store.
Yeah.
It's not a breeder shop, it's a pet shop.
Yeah, exactly.
But like I said, there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody starts somewhere, but if you want to test something out, make sure it's a male.
Yeah, exactly.
If for some reason you get something cool, make sure it's a male, because you're wasting your time with a female, to be honest.
Yeah. Do you have your computer up right now?
I can.
Well, I mean, you don't have to, but have you seen the Tremper Eclipse section of the wiki?
I'm sure I have, but I haven't looked at it in a long time.
I mean, I think that's something else that we need to. Well, we talked about Diablo Blancos and making sure that Eclipse is, visual with a het blizzard, so that you get all Diablo Blancos. But it also says that a Tremper Eclipse has been crossed with Super Snows as part of the Super Raptors, and Tremper Eclipse has also been crossed into Radar Bells. So I think that it's important that people know that when they're saying Tremper Eclipse, they mean Ron Tremper's Eclipse gene has been crossed into those bells.
Not Tremper Albino Eclipse Raptor.
Yeah, which is really, really confusing. And it also says that 2 Tremper Eclipses can give you snake eyes, and from those snake eyes you can produce just standard eclipses. And, I mean, my rule of thumb would be that if I breed 2 albinos with eye pigment and I get just normal geckos with eye pigment, then my albinos are bad.
Yes.
So, yeah. So, I mean, does anybody in the chat have questions, or you want to call in to try to win a book or something?
And you also have, you have the Eclipse, of course, with the eye trait. You have the Blizzard that has the eye trait. You have Super Snows. All Super Snows have solid black eyes, unless lightning strikes and you get some weird off-the-wall 1% animal, which if you look hard enough you might be able to find, but just as a whole, all Super Snows have solid black eyes. Yeah.
There actually was that 1%
I know.
a few years back. Did you see the one in Europe? I think it was Europe. I'm sorry if it was another country over there.
Just giving them credit for it, because they have awesome stuff. But.
Well, it was a Murphy patternless Super Snow Eclipse, but it had like the pied white face under the Murphy patternless pattern, and it had one solid eye and one eye that had a snake eye, and I thought that was pretty cool. But,
you're always going to have the occasional anomalies, but that's few and far between for the most part. But it's the Super Snow's solid black eyes, just simplify it, solid black eyes. I think I confuse people when they're asking me about it is because I say Super Snows have fully eclipsed eyes. And then I think that confuses some people, because whenever you throw out the word eclipse, they're automatically thinking that it's the eclipse gene at work and not just a description of the eyes. But what else? You want to talk about Marble Eye?
Marble Eye? I don't know if I want to talk about Marble Eye. But, I mean, it's Marble Eye is
just another eye trait. I mean, you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to.
It's another eye trait. I mean, I could talk about it a little bit. I have found, just based on, this is like going to be my 4th year with them, or 3rd year, they have marble eyes that have the exact same traits as an eclipse with the snake eyes, and since it's a snake-eyed shape pigment, I guess you should call it, it looks like an eclipse. I mean, it doesn't have any marbling. It looks just like snake eye on an actual marble eye animal. And I mean, then of course you have like the fully marbled, really cool looking eyes, and then marbled eyes with like blue-green type of pigment in them.
Right.
And there was something
and
else
the marble eye trait, if you want to call it, gene, when the babies hatch, the eyes, if it's just say a solid-eyed marble eye, when they hatch, they're just solid eyes. But does it like almost like breaks up like eggshell kind of deal through the eye?
Something else that's really cool that I've been noticing after hatching them is if you have a het marble eye, it is way more colorful than a visual marble eye. Like, they blow them away. Just having a het.
You don't hear a whole lot about, because how long has that trait been around?
Years. Long time.
Because you don't hear a whole lot about it anymore. I remember several years ago it was like marble eye this, marble eye that, and it's kind of died down a little bit as far as.
Yeah, I remember it was 2009 or 2010, January. Marble eye sun glows were $3,500 a piece. That October, they were $350 a piece. I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons why. I mean, it's very hard to sell marble eyes, which I don't understand. I mean, most of them are orange, and everybody loves orange, and they've got like the marbled eye, and
everybody does love orange. Well, not everybody, but the majority of people love orange.
Not me. And it's really hard to get orange out of them.
Yeah. I mean, I'll post one of my eclipses, and I'm like, this thing is awesome. I'll post it on Facebook, get like 6 likes, one person will put nice exclamation point. That's it. I post like the one that I joke around and call it a snot, S-N-O-T line eclipse. I just joke around and say because it looks sort of like a raptor, but it's snot. But that animal is like 30 grams orange, and everybody seems to love it because it's orange. It's a really good looking animal, but like I said, it's not what I normally look for in an eclipse. But yeah, people love tangerines.
Yeah, it's I don't know what it is, but
but anyways, the other you're not gonna. Are we gonna name all the eye pigments like?
There's some other eye pigments that people are. There's always gonna be like something that has popped up out of fascio. That's like a real eye pigment. Like, I mean, it almost looks like the pupil is breaking through that silver outline of the pupil and then just like shooting off across it. Or like another one is where, that heavy vein that circles the pupil, kind of like on a human eye where you would have your color of your eye. And it's just a pigment that's in there, like just within the vein around the pupil. So
there's some interesting stuff. I personally like the way the Mac Eclipse eyes a lot of times look, especially in I got a Mac Raptor from Michelle at Rampant Reptiles, and when I combine that with my other, not my line of Eclipse, but another line of Eclipse, when the Mac Eclipses, their eyes look ridiculous. There's no, like, a lot of times it's like a cut and dry, like you can almost, like, a lot of times with the typical, like, a 50-50 eye, it stops, like, right on the pupil.
Yeah.
Like, one half is black, the other half isn't. But this, like, kind of, sometimes it bleeds into the other side and it fades a lot. it's really cool looking.
Yeah, have you noticed on like with Mac Eclipses where you do have a snake eye, where the half of the eye that doesn't have pigment looks like a normal eye?
Yeah.
And this year I actually, from crossing the clear-eyed stuff to Mac Eclipse, I got the clear-eyed Mac Eclipse where it has like the, I hate to use the Abyssinian term, but it's got that,
right.
That milky colored eye on a Mac Eclipse. So I don't know.
Which is really cool because I personally never hatched a Mac Eclipse that didn't have some form of eye pigment in both eyes.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, typically they're really, I don't know if I should say dominant towards having solid eyes in a Mac Eclipse.
Well, I think about it a lot when I'm dealing with the Mac Eclipses, that your super form of the Mac Snow being the Super Snow, which has its own eye pigment.
Yeah.
If the Eclipse is almost like, when you combine it with the Mac Snow, if it's sort of, some things are locking up a little bit, so it tends to throw a little bit more eye pigment than just it's odd, but it's almost like it's linking up, because I notice most of my eclipses are not solid-eyed eclipses. The only ones that have solid eyes, 99% of the time, are from Mac Eclipses and things like that. They're normally not just straight-up eclipses. So I'm far from a geneticist, but I want to say that something's probably locking up and playing off each other and has some sort of influence on that.
Yeah, I definitely think there's something with Eclipse and the Mac Snow gene. I mean, it's just like with total eclipses. Before 2011, you didn't have white faces. Like, you had the white nose, but...
And, I mean, in Europe and stuff, some of the animals that they have with the Super Snow eclipses and stuff, it's incredible. Like, some of those animals look like pies. I mean, they're pretty impressive.
Yeah, it would be interesting to know if anybody in Europe is working on pulling the white face gene or trait out of Eclipse and Snow, because once you get that. Huh?
Go ahead. I was going to say there's some pretty impressive breeders over there that are, I don't know if they're just thinking a little bit different than a lot of us do, or if it's just the genetics that the bloodlines they're working with versus us. But I mean, some of the animals are, and I mean, we have some pretty darn impressive animals too. Don't get me wrong, but they have a lot of impressive breeders over there that are doing a lot of good stuff with leopard geckos.
Yeah, I think they do. They have really good genetics, and they think outside the box. Where here it's like just mash all of the genes together and make a super morph, and over there it's I've been working on just a total eclipse for 10 years.
Yeah, because that's probably true. I mean, there's people over here that do, like, you have your people that line breed, and then you have your people that, like you said, stack the genes and they're morph makers and stuff. But like you with dealing with the clear-eyed eclipses and stuff like that, and working with the white faces, like, that's stuff that I would have probably never thought about.
Yeah.
I mean, it crosses your mind, but I mean, until somebody actually like, hey, did you ever think about this? I mean, there's probably a lot of people that are out there, even small breeders with good ideas like that are just sort of either one, they could care less about Facebook and online social media, anything like that. They're just there breeding the animals for the love of the animals, and they're not into the whole social media thing. There's a lot of basement breeders out there that are unknown that probably have some sick stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well it's like the back to the inverse, that was some random person found it in a pet shop and they just had it.
Yeah.
Or the pied crested gecko, Somebody bought that at a pet store too, and I think that's how it went.
Yeah, and I mean, you could probably, the odds of finding those needles in the haystack are few and far between, but, I mean, I can't lie. I went into Petco or something like that and going to get, like, dog food or something, like, let me stroll over here, see if there's an inverse hanging out in there or something. Some glow-in-the-dark leopard gecko in the back corner. Like, I'll pay $15 and take that fancy right there. But
yeah,
it's few and far between. So don't put all your eggs in one basket and buy a bunch of pet geckos at a big chain pet store and hope to unlock something, because you're probably going to have more trouble than what it's worth. But
yeah, and those pet store geckos are scraps from other projects too. So I mean, well, that's, I don't want to encourage anything, but you could take 2 Petco geckos and, you know, get a pastel out of it.
No, God. Just bleep that out. Just bleep that out.
We'll bleep that out later. Well,
yeah. But yeah, I mean, back to the. Yeah, I'm just kidding. But back to the eye trait thing. One thing we didn't say about the eclipse is, what do you think about the eclipses that have the red veining versus the eclipses that don't?
To have the what?
Red veining in their eyes. Because now wasn't that part of the description of the Abyssinian?
Yeah, it was.
Because one thing I've noticed is all of my eclipses, the ones that I have now, don't have red veins in their eyes. And I'm still testing, but they've never produced an albino. They've never produced a trimper. They're a possible head trimper, but they've never produced one. The few trimpers that I had that were raptors and then eclipses that were het raptor, I noticed that not all of them, but some of them had the red veining in the eyes. So I wasn't sure if that was, at one point I thought that could be like a marker for being het for trimper. You have an eclipse het trimper has some red veining, but it's not consistent enough.
Yeah, I don't know if that would be consistent enough to take a look at, but then, you know, that's how things are made.
Yeah.
You know, is by people
like
that are
it's crossed my mind, because I like to take eye pictures and stuff like that, and some of them don't come out that great, but when you're looking through the camera and looking at the eye, when you can see it before you actually take the picture, you can get a lot of detail that doesn't show up in the pictures. And you can see some pretty cool stuff, especially with animals with eye pigment.
Yeah, definitely. It would be interesting to see if you could get anything consistent out of that, but I don't know.
Yeah. I guess it was just a thought that came up like 2 years ago that I was like noticing that. But if you have an eclipse and it has red veining in its eyes, it's no different than another eclipse at this point, as long as you know the genetics behind it. All this is knowing, all that we're talking about is animals that you know the genetics of.
Yeah,
exactly. It's not just some random pet store animal with one black eye and they're like, well, I listen to Late Night Leos and they said it's this or they said it's that. Yeah. You need to know the genetics of your animals, but
it's
but
But if anybody wants to call in, the number is 1-646-716-5403. And if you want to head over to the Late Night Leos post on the Gecko blog, you can tag Gary and pick a number between 1 and 1,000, and we will randomly pick a number, and you might win a book. And it's shipped free to you, so all you have to do is a little bit of work and go over there and tag Gary and put a number. I know that's...
So you basically want people to go over to the Gecko blog on Facebook, find your
Facebook
post for Late Night Leo's contest. Tag Gary Horner Jr.
Yeah.
And then pick a number between 1 and 1,000.
Yeah. That's
I'm
all
lost.
you
I don't
have to do.
No.
Well, that's,
But
I do that every day. Every time we've been doing it. Where do I put, what number do I put? Who am I supposed to tag?
It's all good. It's all good. But did you want to? What else do you want to talk about with the eye pigments? You want to talk about like raptors, typhoons, radars, anything like that because of the eye pigment with eclipse?
I guess. Yeah, it would help if they would just call in and ask the question. A raptor.
I can hang up and call back if you want.
And hello, is this the late night Leo?
Yeah. But did you want to talk more about eclipse, or did you just want to stick with the just eye pigment?
I don't know. I think that's about it. That's all eye pigment.
Yeah, other than, I mean, like you have, enigmas have a different eye pigment, but it's not even close to eclipse.
Yeah, I guess
just a different colored eye.
Definitely, Enigma does have its own pigment in it, and I do see a lot of people labeling just plain old Enigmas as Bs, the black-eyed Enigma, which is an Enigma, in case anybody's wondering. But yeah, it's its own pigment that's associated with Enigma, and in Bell's you get they started calling them red-eyed sun-glow Enigmas or something like that. I forget.
Yeah,
but
even I don't work with albinos anymore, so
yeah, I don't. My Bells don't produce, so I don't work with Bells.
Yeah, I just tried to focus on. There's so much with all the albinos and mixing and what's been mixed and what hasn't been mixed, and it's just unneeded stress. I personally like animals with black pigment. But to each their own. But like I said, so I'm not very familiar. I've never produced a radar. I've never produced a typhoon. But you'll have the ones with the solid eyes, the solid red eyes, and then you can also have them with like you were saying, with snake eyes as well. That's still going to make it the eclipse gene at play if it's a snake eye. It's just basically all you're doing is taking the variables of an eclipse trait eye pigment, whether it's 25% black eye or 100% black eye, and everything in between, every possible combination, and you're just taking that eye and making it pink. Part of it's still going to be solid, part of it's going to have the veining and stuff like that in some cases. Sometimes it's going to be completely solid. It's the exact same thing. It's just you take out the black pigment and you're going to be left with the pinkish red coloring.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see what kind of chaos having like a clear-eyed eclipse radar or typhoon. Because wouldn't it have close to a normal albino's eyes? In theory,
it is.
I mean, but like I've just got a raptor that has clear eyes, and you can tell that there's something wrong. Like there's nothing wrong with the animal, but you can see that like the eyes don't look like normal albino eyes. You can tell it's eclipsed, and it looks a whole lot different. But that would be interesting in Bells, because Bells have different eyes than the Trempers.
Yeah, it would be definitely. I mean, all three of them have slightly different looking eyes, but the more it goes, the more they seem to sort of look more similar. Years ago, you could have a picture and you could look at the eyes, and everybody's like, "Get a picture of the eyes, and I'll tell you what albino trait it is." Now it's like a lot of experienced people like, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. Like it's, I don't know, it's an albino. It's a fancy albino. That's
yeah.
It just gets so hard. I don't know. I'm not sure why they've all gotten, not all, but why a lot of them have gotten their eye coloring looks very similar now.
I think just because things are changing, you know, just like other new morphs coming up, like pastels and, you know, high contrast. That's one that I see all the time, and I mean,
hey, some of the and that you just take a whole other, just took a left turn on the eye pigment when you start going into stuff like that. I don't know if you got enough time on the radio show, but morphs are different than polytraits and stuff like that. So.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Next week. No, we got a different show next week.
Yeah, that road dead ends tonight. You're not going down that one.
Don't you work with pastels?
No, I don't. No, I don't.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. So, we don't really need to jump into like what the names of the morph combos are. I mean, everybody pretty much knows that, you know, what typhoons and radars and raptors are. And
yeah, and if it's one of the crazy names that you don't know, like if it's like a nova, supernova, or something wild and crazy, just PM Morgan or tag Morgan, and he'll be able to tell you what it is, because I personally like it a lot better when you're just like, it's a super snow eclipse, or it's this or it's that, and you label out the genes that make the animal versus some odd name that may or may not have anything to do with what the animal actually looks like.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just so hard to know what something is.
There's so many. There's so many. I mean, go on one of the morph things and Wiki or any of them, and that's not even, they don't even have a lot of stuff on some of those, but there's like a laundry list of trade names and stuff, so.
The dirty laundry list. I hate to say it,
easier
but
for me. Yeah. It's good to know the names, just if you're working with stuff like that, if you're really big into morph making and stacking genes and stuff like that, then it's good to get familiar with those names. If you're not, and you're not working with many of them or anything like that, like me, just tell me the genetics of the animal.
Yeah, that's. And see, sometimes someone will buy a dreamsicle, you know, for example, and they don't even know what it is. They just
those
know
are good. The orange ice cream on the outside with the vanilla on the inside. Things are awesome.
Oh, you mean a creamsicle?
Oh, yeah.
And a creamsicle, that would be a whole other episode. That's nowadays you just take a snow and a tangerine and you get a creamsicle. First generation. Yeah. Everybody say it at the same time. First generation. First generation. Creamsicles.
That's right. But it's good to be familiar with the basic genetics of animals. Not only, like I said 100,000 times, what's in your animals, but the different single morph, single gene traits, however you want to label it. It's good to be familiar with knowing those and knowing how they work. It makes combination morphs a lot easier to understand what you're seeing, especially if you get a lot of people that are new and they get some cool animals from reputable breeders that have 2, 3, 4 genes mixed into one animal, and then they breed them, and then they're not sure what they have. And that's hard for newer breeders, because you know you got something cool which popped out. It's like ball pythons. Like every single combination leads back to a white animal. Like when you have a white gecko, it's like when it hatches out, you're like, yes, this is awesome, and you're like, what in the hell is it? Like, I don't know if it's this, and this, or if it's this, and that. Like, I can imagine it can be frustrating. So,
yeah,
either get to learn them or make sure that any combination that you have doesn't produce a white animal.
Yeah, and buy animals that you know what they're het for too. I mean, ask for hets. It's easy as asking what the parents were, because I know I get a lot of people that are like, oh, I've got a raptor, and what were the parents? Oh, it was an ember, and an ember and a Dallo Blanco, and it's okay, yeah, you just got a raptor. That's all you've got.
Yep.
And then they hatched out, the patternless stuff. So it's, and that's where the confusion starts. So yeah, buy animals that you know what they are, and spend the extra $20 to get an animal that is labeled properly. I mean, I know I love raptors that are $40, but if buy the $100 one that's actually patternless and
I mean, there's
has a hatch bait.
Yeah, and a weight and everything else. It's just there's well, there's a lot of mislabeling, but you can only do so much. So just educate yourself.
I don't know. Is that the end of the episode, Brad?
Unless somebody just discovered another eye trait in the past 45 minutes.
Where's I think no, I don't want to say. Josh Hawley might. Where's Josh?
Yeah.
No.
Josh has got all kinds of stuff cooking over there.
Yeah, he's got some pretty cool things. But I don't know. I guess the hour-long episode is good enough. So I would like to thank our generous sponsors, Luxurious Leopard, Holly's Homebird Reptiles, top-notch leopard geckos, designer geckos, SC geckos, and don't forget to check out the new cutting-edge leopard gecko book by Ray Roner of Designer Geckos called The Leopard Gecko Advisor. Available now on Amazon, or for a signed copy, go to their website at designergeckos.com, or if you really, really, really want a free one shipped to your door because they're $30, you can go to the Gecko blog. Yeah, who doesn't like free? Go to the Gecko blog and tag Gary Horner Jr. and put a number down between 1 and 1,000, and we'll get you a free book if we draw your number. So, thank you, Brad, for coming on. Do you have anything on sale? Any sales, Black Friday sales going on Saturday?
I don't.
Black Friday
really do the whole. I don't really do the whole sale. I have discounted shipping right now because I still like my animals, so I don't want to drop the prices too much. I mean, they're still mine, but I just have discounted shipping. It's normally $45 flat rate. It's until what's today? Today's Saturday. Until Monday, Sunday night at midnight. Shipping will be $15 flat rate, up to 3 animals per box.
Wow, are you sending them in envelopes?
No. I figure I want to give people a discount, but I don't want to drop prices of my animals to like $25 reverse stripe Mac Eclipse or something like that for $25. I'd rather keep the animals. I work hard on them, so they're kind of part of the family. So I don't want them to be like disposable pets that somebody goes out and regrets in 2 weeks. Like if people are going out and buying $10 leopard geckos at the pet stores because they're on sale.
Exactly.
But so, like I said, I cut down I'll eat some of the cost of the shipping, but most people's shipping windows are closing. So whether you're looking to buy something from me or any other gecko breeder out there, you definitely want to look into that very soon because lots of people are no longer shipping, especially as you get close to Christmas. Even if your weather is good, or you have a window for shipping, when you get close to Christmas time, all those packages, that's just, you're playing Russian roulette.
Yeah, it's not going to be there overnight. You might get it next Monday.
Yeah, for New Year's or something.
Yeah.
So, but just be careful, and just be, if somebody says they're going to ship it to you Christmas Eve or something like that, just hold off on getting it shipped to you. Some people might not know any better, or might not even be considering it, especially newer breeders. They could be really good, have really great animals, but they're just not familiar with shipping certain times of year, and it's getting to crunch time for a lot of people around this time of year. So just keep that in mind.
Definitely, and we've got nothing against the big breeders that do that.
No, I mean,
we're just saying you're tempting fate. Yeah. I personally, if it was my animal, I'd rather just wait, rather be safe than sorry type deal. Yeah, definitely.
9 times out of 10, it'll get there safe, but you don't want that 1 out of 10. So.
Yeah, you never know. But thank you, Brad, so much for coming on and being my co-host for our 6th anniversary and eye pigment breakdown.
Thanks for having me.
All right, and I'll talk to you later, Brad.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for listening. We will see you next time.